In the city of brotherly love, where hustlers rise from the pavement and fall back into the shadows. Few names ring out like Thelma Wright. She wasn't just another player in the game. She was a queenpin in a man's world. Beautiful, smart, ruthless, and real Philly to the core. Thelma Wright was born and raised in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Her early life was far from glamorous. She came up in a blue-collar household, Catholic school educated, the kind of girl you'd never expect to be in the streets. She was sharp, focused, and had dreams bigger than the block, but life had other plans. She fell in love with a notorious drug trafficker from the Jamaican shower posse named Jackie Wright. He was respected, dangerous, and deep in the heroin and cocaine game. By the time Thelma married him, she had one foot in the streets and the other in the shadows. When Jackie was murdered in 1986, most women would have backed out the game, but not Thelma.
Totally distraught. I'm almost like in shock, And so when the police tell me now I have to go to homicide, I didn't know that was the procedure. So I call the attorney back and I tell him, well, they want me now to go to homicide. He said, yes, that's the procedure. This is what you have to do. So we go to homicide. And initially, homicide, they talk to me very nicely. Okay, your husband, we just found your husband's body in there. Tell us where you've been. And I explained to them that I was in California. I talked to him on Thursday morning, but he had been missing. I hadn't heard from him anymore. And so they're talking to me and I tell them that I believe this has something to do with the guy, Dennis Rogers, who the girlfriend and Dennis lived in this house where they found Jackie's body. And so where it turns left is that the homicide detective says to me, well, they pull out this pen and this pad and he says, well, I want you to write down, all of your husband's friends. And I'm like, what? Write down my husband's friends for what? And he says, well, I want their names, I said, well, my husband's friends didn't kill him. I just told you about this guy, Dennis. I know that this guy, Dennis, owed him money and stuff, and you just found his body in this house. Dennis must have something to do with this. And so this is when it turns, and the officer says, well, if you're not going to cooperate with us, the detective, he says, if you're not going to cooperate with us, then we're not going to solve this murder. And I said, I don't care. You don't have to solve it. It'll be solved one way or another, but I'm not going to give you my husband's friends' names. You know who my husband was. He has a record. You have his jacket. You know who he is. So why would I do that? And so we argue a little bit about that. And he says, the detective says, well, how do we know you didn't kill him? And I said, oh, okay, so I come to Philly, I kill my husband, I jump on a plane, I go back to LA to only turn around to come back to help you find his body? Really? I have a ticket that says I just flew from LA. I have people that flew with me from LA to Philly. When did I kill him? So I walked out.
Instead of folding, she stepped up. She took over his operation, stretching from Philly to LA, moving dope like a freight train, kilos, millions. She ran it like a CEO. She was known on the East and West Coast, respected, feared, and untouchable for a while. She used her charm and intelligence to stay off the radar. No flashy clothes, no loud scenes. She was all business, quiet storm. She knew how to move in silence while making the streets scream her name. But the streets don't love nobody, and even queens get checkmated. The feds started closing in. People flipped. The heat got too real. And with a son to raise, Thelma made the decision that would save her life. She walked away. She was never officially charged, but the lifestyle had taken its toll. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually. She chose her son over the streets and left the game before it buried her like it did so many others. Today, Thelma Wright tells her story across the country. She wrote a memoir called With Eyes from Both Sides, warning the next generation that fast money always comes with a deadly price. From Queenpin to motivational speaker, she flipped the script, but the past is always part of the legend. Thelma Wright's story ain't just about drugs and dollars. It's about choices, power, pain, and walking away before the streets take your soul. This is the rise and fall of Thelma Wright, the Queen of Philly.